2012, we then drove up here to Pensacola, Anthony and I. So what you're looking at is the Florida Podcasters Association. And the mission that we set out 4 years ago was, I grew up in New York, and I knew media markets as New York, LA. Why can't Florida own its own media market, the medium of podcasting? It was up for grabs. So 4 years ago, I put a stake in the ground. I'm going to show you what's happened since. And that's why I'm here in Pensacola today. So the definition of podcasting is a digital medium consisting of an episodic series of audio subscribed to and downloaded through web syndication or streamed online to a computer or mobile device. If that doesn't make any sense, think of radio, but not really radio. I would think of the birth of radio, Orson Welles and all the experimentation, and Jack Benny in today's marketplace through a mobile device and its on-demand audio content. The reason why this proliferation has happened is these beautiful smart devices are linking up to the Bluetooth in the vehicles. And now people are usurping the radio dial going into podcasting, which is what they want to listen to, instead of what the 10 choices are already present to them. If you look around, you'll see everybody with headphones. The example I always use, 10 years ago, I was a traveling speaker with a group, and I remember everybody said to me, you have to buy the Bose noise-canceling headsets. Who remembers those? And they said this caveat, they're really expensive. They're about $319. That's not even the high end anymore. Now you go over $1,000 to $1,500, and there's hundreds of choices of headsets. The question I have for you is, why did we go from one premium choice to hundreds of choices? And my theory is because we're absorbing more audio content than we ever have, and it's a fashion statement that these earphones make for us, but we're absorbing more and more audio as we progress. This is a microphone I recommend. It's the ATR 2005. It's a USB mic. The reason why this is a revolutionary mic is you can literally take it and connect it to your computer. So very little technology is needed anymore to do a podcast. Now I will give you the #1 tip and the #1 mistake everybody makes, even veterans and beginners. And if you accomplish this, you're 99% on your way to becoming a podcast. It's hitting this little button to on. Everybody at one time or another leaves it off. And they even have a light that pops up blue so you know it's on. I've done it, my wife's done it, all of us have done it. But the reason why I tell you that as a beginner, it's okay. And we want people to get started. Zoom is the platform I use. Many of you in business use Zoom. Very easy, integrate to record your calls. If you don't know what it is, check it out. And then I'm not going to really cover this too much, but just like HostGator and hosting companies for websites, for audio you need hosting companies. These are the different kinds of hosting companies that host your audio, meaning you own your audio, you put it on this host, and then you direct it out to all the different iTunes and all the different what we call feeds. Now the universal thing about podcasting is no one thought anyone could make money off of it, and they didn't put up what we call paywalls. They call it geofencing. So I recently, a couple years ago, made a movie, and I tried to get it distributed across the world. You have to pay each toll keeper their due to get it into certain countries or certain. This is my wife's stats. Everything that is in white are her top countries. Anything gray and green are different. She's in 152 countries. Her podcast is called Biz Women Rock, one of the top female empowerment podcasts in the world. But it's not unusual for a podcast to have listeners in 150, 130, 100 countries. Depends how long you've been doing it. So it's a universal concept, and that's very groundbreaking and really amazing. This is a gentleman by the name of Tyler Sheff. I do an event that came out of this little group that I showed you in the beginning called PodFest. PodFest is our national conference, and the reason why we do it is we get people not only from the state of Florida, but all over the world once a year in Orlando. And this was in the early days. We had a group of about 100 people. Tyler Sheff was one of the guys right here. That's his bald head right there. He was sitting up front. He was about to go to a real estate conference. We told him, please come to PodFest. We think I'd rather have you be the speaker in front of the room than the person sitting in the room. And he said, I like that idea. I want that too. He started the Cash Flow Guys. Since then, he's one of the top 5 influencers in the world in real estate. Cash Flow Guys by Tyler Sheff. He's been on other different amazing shows. And he's been able to monetize his passion by helping other people in real estate. He's the no BS real estate guy. He gives you no fluff. He's really amazing at what he does. But recently he launched a coaching through Zoom. I think it was 12 weeks, $5,000. He sold out, I think, 20 spaces or whatnot. And he has so many people that want to work with him that Tyler now is literally making a full-time living. Not through podcasting. Podcasting is the medium that attracted the audience. I want to make sure you guys understand that. You can make money through podcasting, but he uses podcasting as a vehicle to siphon off his clients into other verticals, okay? This is the city planner of Tampa. This man plans the city of Tampa. He comes through our doors and he says, Chris, I want to do a podcast. One is about transitioning people into the workforce. We don't know what it was, but it wasn't interesting. The other one was, it wasn't that, by the way, if that's your field, but it was something that just didn't make sense. It was like, whatever. The other one was, I want to talk about drones. We all said, Randy, you double down, you do drones. And Randy was like, but I'm afraid about what I sound like. We're like, podcaster, you can edit it out and re-record. So he did that the first couple. He would literally delete all his questions and re-record them. But Randy is our city planner. He is now, in the beginning when he launched in January, 14,000 downloads. This was, I think, 2 years ago. I get this off of Facebook, so you guys know it's real. I try and get everything off of Facebook. I mean it, like people's posts, not something I create. Does that make sense? Within 35 months, he's done 162 episodes now. He's at 400,000. He's one of the top 3 influencers in the world with drones. He has his retirement plan ready in the next couple of years, and when he retires, he gets flown out to conferences all over the world. Now, you would think, this is one here locally. Do you guys know that you have, Will has the STEM talks? That's how. That's awesome. Yeah, you guys do a great job. I was listening on the way up. So I met Will at PodFest. That's why I'm here, because Will is up in Pensacola. I'm gonna.
I don't work for IHMC. I'm just pushing their podcast all the time.
But it's a great. I'm gonna be touring the robotics lab after this, and one of the things I get to do is visit and see amazing things through podcasting. But STEM Talks is one of the top. Now they're gonna have to add the A. I don't know if you guys know they added an A for arts in there. So STEAM Talks. It is one of the top podcasts in the world for what it does, and it's based right here. I mean, you guys, how proud are you to have this? This is an asset for the world, right out of Pensacola. But this is just to understand. These are my podcasts. I do this in my spare time. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right now, and I use them in all different ways and varieties. I probably spend no more than 4 or 5 hours a month on my podcast. I'm very strategic about how I produce it. I have people that I work with that produce most of the audio content. But one of the areas I'm creating the largest kid-friendly podcast network in the world. It's kid-friendly animal fun facts, kid-friendly joke of the day. This has been launched now for 2.5 months. We're already past 15,000 downloads. We believe it'll be the universal standard. In the next 3 weeks, I'll be launching kid-friendly geography, kid-friendly history, and kid-friendly dinosaur fun facts. Those are fun for kids. We were trying to do science, but we're still trying to simplify it for 5 to 8-year-olds, so it's a little bit more complex. But dino fun facts, I love it, kids love it, everybody loves it. Now, I always get this, and I get a lot of questions. This doesn't work for B2B. This is a gentleman that's a government contracting officer that started a podcast for people that are looking to do what we call RFPs, requests for proposals, B2B with the government. Kevin Jans is now one of the leaders. There is a section in podcast for government affairs, and he's one of the top podcasts in the world. He didn't get any traction for the first 6 months. Now he's really well established, and I think he launched a conference because of his podcast. And this is him thanking me and my wife up on Facebook for helping him get started. Again, can't fake this credibility. I get these almost every day. Someone's posting something that we helped them start. This is my proudest thing right here. Lee Silverstein's a good friend of ours. He actually was the host of our meeting. He wasn't looking to start a podcast, but he's a stage 4 colon cancer survivor. So he started the Colon Cancer Podcast, and it was one of the only podcasts by a survivor for people with cancer. There's a lot of clinical podcasts about cancer. I want to make sure you guys know science, but not people that have cancer talking about cancer ongoing. There weren't any current ones. So he started the Colon Cancer Podcast, and it became bigger than him, and he transitioned it to We Have Cancer, more of a statement. And he now has different shows for different things that he's doing. He just launched this the other day, May 29th. He got on TV, they interviewed him. A guy in New Zealand just bought his shirt and wore it, and we posted it up on the Facebook group. So pretty amazing things. In Ocala, we have the largest network about horses in the world called The Horses. Who knows about Glenn the Geek? We were hanging out last night. So Glenn has horses, horse radio network. He has Horses in the Morning, Stable Scoop. I'll give you a guess what Stable Scoop is about. He has eventing, happy hour. He has all these things. Glenn's an amazing individual. He's done really amazing. He has like Purina. His sponsors are off the charts. He gets some of the greatest sponsors in the world. And when it comes to the world of horses, he owns that niche when it comes to audio, okay? This is a young man that I mentored recently. He does the People of Manufacturing. This is what we would call a video cast on Facebook. He just launched it. He had 1,300 views on his first one. So there's different ways you could deliver it. The main way that's the easiest with the most amount of listeners is audio. And iTunes is where 80% of the market looks for their audio. I want to make sure. So if you have something that's not iTunes, you're missing 80% of the market. Here's what we're looking for, trends to watch. We need more female podcasters. You're going to see more geo-local podcasts popping up. So right now, Glenn also started the Finding Florida network. You're going to see more city-type podcasts coming out. I'm excited for this because I'm raising a little podcaster right now, my daughter Sedona. I always heard the term, they wrap you around your finger, but until you experience it, there's no wrong that this girl could do, and my poor wife has to always be the disciplinarian because I just laugh at everything. But she's amazing. She's 2.5, going on 18, but she loves wearing her little headsets and, daddy and mommy with podcasting. So I'm glad to be here, but I'm also excited to go home and see her. It's one of my joys of life is I spent 10 years in a suit. I didn't mind wearing a suit. I loved it. But now I get to do everything on my terms, and being home with my daughter is like one of my top priorities. We also created the official documentary about podcasting. So one of the biggest disconnects I had is people didn't understand what a podcast was. And what they would tell us is, I don't see what you're talking about. And they literally were telling me, I don't see what you're talking about. So I took it upon myself to create the official documentary about podcasting. So we created The Messengers, a podcast documentary. We were able to get distribution out of Hollywood. We're up on iTunes. We have over 52 5-star reviews, and allows people to see and be inspired about what the world of podcasting is about. Glenn, the geek of the Horse Radio Network, is featured, as well as we found a podcaster out of China featuring women in China. Pretty amazing stuff. So this allowed us to travel the world for a year. And I highly recommend, if you'd like to watch this, I have some commemorative books about the movie. Watch the movie, then read this, because it talks about trivia. These are originals, so they have some mistakes in them, but they're probably collectibles one day. So if you have Amazon, we're on Amazon Prime. We just got accepted about a year ago, so you could go on Amazon and watch it free of charge. We've literally had hundreds of thousands of people all over the world watch this documentary. So here's a question people always ask. Okay, Chris, that's great. How do you make your money? So I want to explain this. I do a conference once a year. We're celebrating our 5-year anniversary, March 7th to the 9th in Orlando. We literally bring the whole world of podcasting in one roof. We're the largest conference on the East Coast every year for this, and we happen to be in the state of Florida. So Florida's our home court, but we bring people in from Europe, Israel, Costa Rica, all over the world. We have always a Boss Lady workshop. This is material from this previous year's. This year it's March 7th to the 9th. We have over 80 different sessions you could choose from. And these are some of the best speakers. I literally will be in Dallas the next day. I am always looking for talent. I was at VidCon last week looking for YouTubers. So we talk about YouTube. We talk about membership sites. We talk about 17 ways to promote your podcast. We talk about email marketing. And we have over 200 speakers that we feature throughout. So you could literally make a custom map. And we put audience building, we put monetary, we put little symbols so you know what it is that you might want to watch during what breakout. So it'll be at the Wyndham International Drive, March 7th to the 9th, and that's what I do. Thank you, guys. And before I take questions, if anyone wants to learn more, and I'll send resources out, I have a guide on how to get started for podcasting for $100 or less. I love sending that out. And then for our Florida, I'm on the board of Million Cups in Tampa. I love Million Cups. I'm like the biggest fan of what we do. So yes. My wife's podcast is BIZ Biz Women Rock. She has a Facebook group that's free. Over 5,000 women are on that group, so highly recommend joining that. It's really great resources.
Okay, awesome. Okay, the other question is, and I'm guilty of this too, everyone goes back downloads to measure podcasts. I hate to download podcasts because it clogs up my storage. I'll go on their website and just listen to it. So there's a whole audience that doesn't get counted for, like people like me who don't download that consume tons of podcasts. So
It gets factored in. Streaming numbers don't get counted. Downloads we know is a verifiable download. And what I'll tell people, things like Anchor, these free tools are coming out. They're really great, but you have to have, if you're looking to make money, you have to have a verifiable host, like a Libsyn, Spreaker. Certain hosts are advertisers trust. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anchor is very new. Gary Vaynerchuk, I think, has a piece, so he's promoting it a lot. I see a lot of people getting on Anchor. Great tool, but it's not verifiable yet by advertisers. So be careful of what you're using if you're looking to monetize.
But there are millions of people probably
There's a council that gets together once a year, and they debate these issues, and I'll pass it on because I go to these things. They literally will debate what constitutes a download and how do we have accurate numbers.
Yeah, because I never downloaded one podcast, but I've listened to hundreds.
Yeah, but it also should show up when you say something, you'll see an action. So it'll show up in some way, shape, or form. When,
I mean, I wish you could make it like an email click or something you could show that someone clicked on it. And
tell them to go to your Instagram or something. You'll see it in action. If you don't see any actions, then you know it's soft numbers, what I would say. But I agree. The verdict's not out yet on downloads. Any other questions about niches? I literally, some people don't know why, but they consider me the foremost expert in podcasting. I spent the last 4 years understanding not everything. I learn things new every day, but I understand a lot about this area. Yes?
How many businesses are producing podcasts? How many businesses are?
Well, a lot. You know, the business category is the most competitive, that and the comedy category. But I think your question is how many, like, mom and pop or local businesses?
Yeah, like let's say, or law firms, accounting firms.
The law firms, a lot. Service-based providers, the smart ones, are up already. They're actually starting to sell podcast names for 6 figures, like domains. So I went to, yeah, this is not small business, but they haven't woken up yet, so I have a good opportunity on doing some stuff. So I went to a financial conference called FinCon. Great conference, it's in Orlando, we'll be exhibiting there. 2 young people walked past my booth. I exhibit at all these places to learn what's going on, and you know, we get a lot of attendees out of it. But they looked at my booth and they walked past my booth. I grabbed them because I knew something. Why did they look at my booth and walk past it? And I said to them, look, I get that you're probably not interested in coming to my event, but why'd you stop? They go, we had a podcast. Well, what happened? Their podcast was called Financial Planning. I think it was called Financial Planning Training or something. They're like a big outfit bought our podcast. They wouldn't tell me how much. But it really opened up a whole world that, you know, the domaining side of how. So there's a big business that hasn't happened yet. It's about to grow in the next couple of years. And here's what I will tell you if you're advising a small business owner. They don't have time to do a weekly podcast. And the challenge is, and everybody here, I want to expand your thought on what a podcast is. Right now, most of you think a podcast is 2 people getting interviewed, okay? That's not what I consider a podcast is. A podcast is online, on-demand, searchable audio content. So what I would tell a local jeweler is, do you network a lot? They'll say, yeah, all the time. That's how I try and get my business besides my advertising. Do you have a frequently asked questions up on iTunes? 1 through 7, the questions that people ask you about, diamond clarity, VVS this or all that stuff. They'll say no. You should have 7 frequently asked questions in audio format that's online, on demand, searchable on iTunes. And when you meet someone and they're asking you a specific question, before you hit your car, you're going to send them episode number 7 so they can listen to you explain what they're talking about. You're progressing the buying decision 3-4 times quicker by having touch points in the audio in your car. And that to me is another way you could use podcasts. Yes? And then I think we had 2 questions on this side, but yeah.
So there's that use case. I'm just thinking of the podcast that I was most intrigued by was Serial, done several years back.
Sure, Sarah Keening.
Yeah, deep dive storylines, taking out kind of like a there's a dead zone or something. But you're saying though that it's more of the shorter in demand, real time answer a question as opposed to a narrative.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's all of the above. I'm saying it's audio drama. I'm saying it is storytelling, like The Moth. They do stories in front of a live audience. I'm saying it's 2 people interviewing about business. I have a podcast. I've done 2,000 events in my professional life. I have a podcast called the Conference Cash Flow Podcast, teaching people how to do conferences. That's specialized information podcast that you could only get from me because I have the knowledge. I put in my 20,000 hours or whatever doing it, so people seek that out. I don't care about downloads on that. I get 70 downloads, but those are people I want to put on events, so they're very valuable to me. There's animal husbandry, the horse people. You know, we need more dog podcasts about dogs. We need more bird and parrot podcasts. I have a little parrot. I see it all the time. There's so many open niches. It's embarrassing how many opportunities there are. But what happens is we all look at the same place, not scratching underneath the surface. There's all these opportunities underneath. So there's 2 questions on this side. I think, yes?
Yeah, I got a lot of questions, but this one more importantly, where do you secure a name for a podcast that you might want to have, even if you don't have it right now? When you said they're saleable, it's like a URL, right?
You,
How does that happen?
you go on the iTunes store, but you also need to, it's like anything else. You got to search. If you're going to trademark your podcast, you got to look at, who owns the .com, if you could get the .com. So you got to do some research on that. Because some of these podcasts hit big, and like I bought the trademark of Story Jam Theater. It's a storytelling podcast, and luckily for me, someone in Chicago was doing the same thing, and they contacted me because I had the trademark. Luckily for them, Story Jam for me was a hobby, so I sold them my trademark and said under one condition, that I could still do my podcast. She was in the music industry. She needed the trademark more than I did. So you could do business too. So I made money selling a trademark.
One other quick question. You meet once a month in Napa?
Once a month, second Tuesday. We have 2 meetings, by the way. Does anyone know Full Sail College in Orlando? It's a huge multimedia interactive. Second Tuesday of every month, if you go on Facebook, join the Florida Podcasters Association. It's a group on Facebook. The one that's international is PodFest Multimedia Community. You could join both. I'll accept you. And the quarterly, we also meet in Orlando on Full Sail campus. I'm the only outside vendor allowed to hold a meeting on their campus. They trust us. And what happens is our people, a lot of the business people, need talent. So they hire their students. So it's a win-win full circle for what I call the I-4 corridor and the Florida economy. And that was a vision that I started 4 years ago. It took me 2 years to win them over. So I'm excited about that, yes.
All right, Chris, you know the last question. So what can Pensacola do for you?
So I'm excited to be in the Panhandle. I've been to Gainesville, a lot of all the other Million Cups. I need you to help me spread the word. I'm always looking for podcasters, YouTubers. We also help YouTubers. I'm looking for talent that we could feature on different things that we do because we do events. But I also need you to, if you think this is something you want to pursue, spread the word. I'll send you an email on our resources and what we have. And then if you could make it out March 7th to 9th, come to PodFest. This is the feedback I hear every time. People are like, I didn't realize it was like that. And they're always amazed. Because I tell them, if you feel like the energy now, imagine like quantified, and it's like the thought leaders of the world are there. You could talk to the top podcasters. You could joint venture. And the only rule we have at PodFest is speakers must be treated like attendees. So we don't hold them up like gods because then they don't network with the attendees. I don't see a delineation between the two. So that way there's a lot of strategic joint venturing because as you guys know, I sit in the audience. Everybody in here has some kind of value. And why should you not be able to connect, especially if you have value to transact? So that's kind of the ethos of PodFest. We'll have over 1,000 people next year. We have about 12 different countries represented. But thank you for the question. It's we left at 2 a.m., drove straight up here, and I know you could tell I'm excited about this. And then I'll be in Dallas speaking Saturday at the National Speakers Association, teaching them about podcasting. Then I'll be in Philly the next week. Then I'm taking a break. August, I got a couple vacations planned. I get more amped up actually the more I travel, so I'm a little opposite of most. All right, thank you so much, guys. Thank you.